Look, I find some of what you teach suspect, because I'm used to relying on intellect. But I try to open up to what I don't know, because reason says I should have died 3 years ago. There's only us, there's only this. Forget, regret, or life is yours to miss. No other road, no other way, no day but today.
When I think about coming out or talking to people, young people about coming out, I always think that there's something different in coming out to a parent sharing a relationship than simply talking about this abstract sexual identity thing.
Yeah.
Although I think both are important to talk to parents about. But, and at the time, she was a little bit like, well, why can't you just be friends? And so that's it. It was just kind of a funny question, I think, in retrospect. It didn't feel funny at the time. But, and, you know, and looking back, too, I mean, I think most of my mom's discomfort with it, and it was source of her discomfort had a lot to do with the fact that she was a nurse. This was in the height of the AIDS crisis, and she was concerned about that for me. And, you know, like so many mothers, they're concerned about safety and that people who are queer sometimes have harder lives, although I don't think that's so much true anymore, certainly not in New York. So it was that kind of concern. It wasn't like it didn't feel like some sort of fire and brimstone feel like a moral judgment of like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
It felt like, I'm worried about you, and I'm scared, and I'm a little sad, you know, that you might have a painful life.
Were there aspects of this that you think did bring you closer to your mom? I mean, I think the challenge for all of us as adults is what part of ourselves, especially if we're in another city and our lives are very different from the lives our parents lived, what part of ourselves do we share, and how does that allow us to, you know, to remain close in a meaningful way to our parents? And it seems like that was all part of what you were trying to do there.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was for me. And the other thing that was because we had been so close growing up, while I was growing up, I think we went through a period, regardless of my sexuality, of sort of, I had to kind of break free and become my own person and do all that kind of, you know, cut the apron strings thing. And that was always, I think, very hard for her. I think the coming out and all of it was just another step in us becoming adult friends, which is something that was very important to me, but I feel like we were on the road to that, and we broke through so many things before she died, but all these, you know, now it's 10 years, and
yeah.
I just think like that would be much, much stronger to me now than it even was by the time she was gone.
Well, I was sharing with you one of the things that really resonated with my own experience and my mom's death 5 years ago now, is this feeling of being torn, feeling ambivalence in terms of, you know, having my life here in Madison. My mom was in Kansas, several states away, and it was hard to be able to break away and spend meaningful time. You know, on some level, I felt like I was never doing enough, and that guilt sometimes contributed to actually even staying away more, I think. And, you know, but this is a very common thing, I think. Am I characterizing this correctly? And have you heard other people express some resonance with that experience as well?
Yeah, people have expressed that. I mean, for me, it was this funny thing. I mean, I asked her point blank, and, you know, my mom, maybe she lied to me just to make me feel better. I don't know, but I have to take her at her word that I asked her, you know, do you want me to be here more? She was like, I want you to do the show. This is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So I did, and I went home like once or twice a month on my day off, which was not the easiest thing to do, but I mean, it was something that I wanted to do, but it was also something that was really hard. So it was this mixture, of feeling like I was there for her, and then also feeling like I wasn't. I mean, the hardest thing for me during that time was talking to her on the phone. That was more, in some ways, that was more painful than being there with her, seeing her so ill.
Yeah.
Was that's when I felt the distance of it more keenly, is hearing, how weak her voice was and not being able to hold her hand. There was a real sense of acceptance, especially towards the end, in a way that I don't think everybody who's dying displays that level of sort of grace and acceptance. I mean, some people go really screaming into the night, and some people shut down, and some people, she took it on. She was just clear-eyed about it. That's my experience.
Were you able to come back to Joliet in time before she died, or what was that week like?
No, I had been home just for one of my normal visits, like a week and a half before that, or it seemed like as I was getting ready to leave to go back to the airport, it just seemed like she was going. It seemed like it was going to be the end. And the hospice workers were like, yeah, it looks like it. And so I wound up asking her if she wanted me to stay, because I wanted to be there for the end. I wanted to be able to say goodbye for real. And when I asked her if she wanted me to stay, she said yes. So I was like, okay, that seems like this is really it. And I wound up staying for about a week. And the other members of her family came down. I mean, it became this strange thing that happens, which is literally a death watch, which is kind of crazy and morbid and sad and weird. And but she kind of had a little bounce back. And so my brother Adam had come home from New York also, and we both were like, wow, well, the hospice worker said, yeah, maybe she could last another who knows how long.
Yeah.
So we went back to New York, and I woke up one day it was the 22nd of May, and got a phone call from my sister saying that she's like, you really should come home. I think it looks like it's really happening. And I was like, okay. So we immediately made our plans and got everything together, and I called my stage management and everything like that. And when we got to the airport, this is in the days before cell phones, I called from the payphone at the airport just to check in right before we boarded, and I got my mom's sister on the phone. My mom's sister, who was her primary caregiver, and she said that she had just died right before I called, like minutes before. So we got the word right before we got on the plane, which is kind of very, very strange. But They kept her there at the house so we could, I guess, say goodbye and pay our respect, which is so strange. But I'm glad that she was, so I could see her. Even though seeing a body is not at all like seeing a person. But
well, and it's a good example again, I think, of the authenticity in the book, just about things that may seem a bit odd or awkward, but are part of this process, and you describe it, in a way again that I think that really, it does touch other people who've gone through similar losses.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, that was certainly one of my goals when I was approached about writing the book. My publisher had lost his father when he was in his 20s, and there's very little literature out there for young people, especially that has to do with losing a parent, and that was one of the main reasons that he wanted me to write the book, was to provide a mirror to people's experience. Although, my experience won't be exactly like anyone else's experience, but hopefully there's enough in there that people can identify with. And I've been very touched to hear from many, many people in the year and a half since the book came out that has been the case, that people have been they've been able to identify quite strongly with a lot of it, and that's very meaningful to me.